Hey y'all, Fuzz Z Biker here in the one of the garage areas or work areas in Baxter Cycle in the mighty metropolis of Marnie, Iowa. There is my hot rod Himalayan. It's been taken apart, put back together in different degrees. It's got 100,000 kilometers at 62,137 miles, and this is the last of a series of videos that I did on that. I think this will be the last one. Got a little list here that we'll go through. They've just done a bunch of maintenance on it. And some of the things that they've done, they've replaced these brackets so the foot pegs aren't sagging anymore. They've, I think they took all of this apart in the back and re-greased everything and made sure everything was working right and all that stuff. They adjusted the valves. There was one valve that was just a little, one of the intake valves was just a little bit tight. I had a DNA air filter. I wanted to go back to a regular air filter, and there's a reason for that. And that the main reason is I just want to see how the bike performs with the regular stock air filter again. And that's the deal there. They've re-bled my brakes. I think they put a new brake pad on the front. The back one had a new one already. Adjusted the chain. They've done a handful of things like that. Let's see what I got here. This is for this side. You look at it, see how oval that hole is? That hole's supposed to be round, and that was what was happening there. I'm trying to find the other one because the other one was really wore out. see where they've got it laying around here. The other one was just way gone. So this is what the underside of this bike looks like. Y'all are gonna say it's very dirty. Well, what you should think when you see that is all 100,000 kilometers, all that riding, all that dirt, all that water, and everything still worked. Like electronics never failed, nothing failed. This was all rock solid. The radiator, the engine, all of this stuff was just rock solid. Didn't have any issues with it, and that's what I see. All that dirt is there, but it's sealed away from the engine. When we took the airbox out, I ran my fingers in there, and it was not greasy. It was. I did the same with the manifold. We put a new spark plug in it too, by the way. And when you take the throttle, but you have to take this and this off to get to the valves. I took that off. I stuck my hand into the intake, and same thing, dry. Not greasy. So, this bike has not used any oil yet. Looks like it needs an oil change yet, but it has not used any oil in the 62,000 miles, 100,000 kilometers, not once. So we're doing really good there. So here they've got a little list here. Can't do list, and that's how this video is going to start. The can't do. So every week on all my social media platforms, I get somebody comes by and tells me that I cannot ride this bike on the interstate, or I can't ride fast on this bike, or I can't ride two up on this bike. I can't do freeway speeds on this bike. The engine's too small. It doesn't have enough power. Let's see what else I got. You can't ride long miles on this bike. Well, I'm here to tell you, you can do all those things with ease, without issue. The motor is dead stock. I have not put anything, there's no Fuel X, there's no cams, the cat has not been deleted. Everything is stock on this bike. And I ride this, I've done an iron butt on this. I ride this all over the country. I put luggage on it, I have passengers on it, and it will do all those things just fine. So not an issue there. Not an issue there at all. This bike, I run freeway mile after freeway mile after freeway mile, and I've got a Viridian cruise control on there, which makes that the thing to do. That was a shameless plug for that company. They got a sticker here right there. I got it covered with the motorcycle shop sticker. They're from San Antonio, Texas. If you're in San Antonio, check those guys out. They're great. But the bike will run all day long, day after day. I just got back from a 22-day. I can't remember how many miles, 7,500 miles, 7,300 mile ride, and not a hiccup, not a hiccup. We went up into Canada, across down the East Coast, across the South Coast, all the way into Arizona, and then back. And, that's just all the way to Alaska. Well, anyway, on and on and on. Improvements. So when I say improvements, I mean over the last bike. So I had the original 411 Royal Enfield Himalayan. That's how I got started with the Himalayans, with the Royal Enfield brand. I was coming to Baxter Cycle, and I wouldn't ride them because why would I want to ride such a cheap motorcycle, or such an underpriced motorcycle, or such a low-powered motorcycle? And they finally got me on one, and I rode it 3 days in a row. The first day I rode 5 miles, second day 10 miles, And the third day, they just said, take it on, put 300 miles on, put 180 miles on, and just fell in love. By 100 miles, I was totally hooked on the bike. Well, that was the original 411, and that was a 24 horsepower motorcycle. It would top out at about 80, 85, but it would cruise relatively consistently between 60 and 65. You could do that all day. My longest day on that bike was something like 370 miles, and I did that by accident. I did several 400 and 500 mile days on it. It was a great bike. This bike is a vast improvement over that. And the big thing that we all want to know is the engine. The engine, we were waiting for this bike to come out, anticipating it, and we were all waiting for that beautiful engine, and it is a dual overhead cam, 40 horsepower, 30 foot-pounds of torque. That's 40 newton meters, 4 valve per cylinder, single cylinder, of course, 6-speed transmission. The old one had a 5. Everything just, and when that engine showed up, liquid cooled, when it showed up, it was everything they promised. It's fly-by-wire, which means we can have the cruise control. It was just this magic thing that came with the bike. So we get on the bike. Jeremy and I we picked up, they were released in the wild on August 23rd of 2024. We were there at 8:30. We got 2 of them. We rode them from Utah into Colorado. First time we got off the bikes, first thing we said to each other is the suspension. The suspension was just mind-blowing. The suspension was amazing. It's Showa suspension, front and rear. They're not adjustable. They've got 8 inches of travel here, upside down fork, 43 millimeter tubes. And you can't adjust them, but they're done so right already, and they just work fabulously. The rear has this monoshock, again, 8 inches of travel. That's 200 millimeters. It's been flawless. That's where I've had my shock set. I set it, I think it was on 1 less, and I set it up 1 notch. So that's where it's been set ever since I've had this bike, and I've been very happy with that. That took me to Alaska and back. That took me all over the country. Bike's been to, I was going to show you in the tank, been to 49 states, and up to the Arctic Circle and all those neat things. So amazing suspension. Awesome electronics. This is kind of a two-sided one because the electronic package, it's got a TFT up there, the round TFT. I don't know if I can show you that. It's up in the air, but it has the tach, it has a speedometer, it has all the you can use this joystick here to change it from thing to thing, and it just does all these wonderful things. It also has a built-in nav system, and one of my complaints about it was in order to use the nav, you have to tie your phone up, and you can't turn the phone off. You have to leave the home screen on. Well, I just went to California and back in a van, and I had it was 3,500 miles round trip, and I had my phone on the dash the whole time with the screen on, and I never complained once about that. So in this case, I would put, I should try it. I'm going to try it. I've done it. I did it on, I went to Virginia and back with the phone hooked up, and I really haven't used it much since then. But I think I'm going to start using it again. And the phone does fine if you leave it on, and the home screen, the open screen they have to leave open, is black, so it doesn't matter. And what I do is I'll plug it in and put it in I have a tank bag, and that'll take care of that. So awesome electronics. Fit and finish is another thing. The old Himalayan had cold welds and things like that, and I never saw one that had a broken weld ever. There was a story about that, and anyway, this has a much better fit and finish, and I'm very happy about that. Everything looks better, and Royal Enfield has a history of that. Every year, all their bikes seem to get a little better in quality, a little better paint, a little better everything. It just goes and goes and goes and goes and goes. So that's that. What to change? So this is an interesting one, and I've had a lot of talks with people here in the shop about that, and a lot of my friends that have Himalayans, and it's really a hard one because the bike works so well as it is. You don't really want to change anything. The suspension works great. Should we upgrade the suspension? Maybe have it adjustable? Well, I don't need it adjustable. It works really well for me. I've been very happy with it. The people I know that have it are happy with it. I have had bikes with adjustable suspensions. I really never used it. Makes it more complicated. I don't know how to adjust them. I have to learn how things work in order to adjust them. And then once I get them adjusted, I leave them alone. My Bear has, and my Super Meteor have a YSS on the backs. I had to study how to get them adjusted. It took me 300 miles to get adjusted. Was it better? Yes, it was. However, in this case, I think just leave it alone. I think I'm happy with it. If you start putting fancier things on like that, the price of the motorcycle is going to go up, and now you have a different product. oil filter cover. So I broke one of these already, and if you look at it, see how it's kind of, when you take this off, we hit it with a hammer, we loosen it, take it off, then we put anti-seize. When we put it back on, we put anti-seize on it. There's no ring. We snug it up. We don't go very tight because we don't want to damage it again. Now, we were noticing that the part number for the original one versus the modern part number, the new part number, are different, and we don't know if Royal Enfield has changed them or not. If they haven't, I hope they have. You know, hope they do so. Here's kind of an interesting one: air filter location. I mean, I don't know how important this one is. I've had this bike 62,000 miles, 100,000 kilometers, and this has not been an issue. But out of all that time, let's say sixth or seventh of that has been off-road. Would it be nice to have an air filter that you can access without removing the tank? You know, that would be a nice thing. Now, this is not a dirt bike. This is not a dual sport. This is an ADV bike. You know, this is a travel bike. So it's not as critical as you might think it would be. But if it was an available option, I would like that. Now, my old Himalayan had an air filter on the side, and you could take it out. One of the advantages of having the air filter where it is the intake is actually over here somewhere. Now, we did river crossings in this bike. Now, if the intake's up here versus down here, that means you can traverse deeper water without worrying about, you know, getting water into your bike. We did knee-deep water, which is something like this, maybe. And Colorado Mark and I did that. And we just didn't worry about the air, you know, because of that, we didn't worry about that. But what else have I got on my list here? Okay, a brighter headlight. This is, okay. Every motorcycle I ever own, I think, I wish I had a brighter headlight. And this had a very bright headlight. As time goes by, I wish it had a brighter headlight. You know, and I think that's just a natural condition for a motorcycle owner. If you have a bright headlight, you want a brighter one. And that's kind of where I'm at with this. If they could do something to make it brighter, I think I would go for that. Now, you can get aftermarket headlights that are brighter, so they could do this from the factory brighter. So that is something on my list here. Brighter headlight. After that, I've got adjustable levers. So this brake lever isn't really an issue. My clutch lever is, and I have to really reach for the clutch lever. You can get aftermarket levers that are adjustable. It'd be neat if they were that way from the factory. A lot of their other bikes do have adjustable levers. I think the new Go ones do. My Super Meteor did. You know, so if we could do that on here, I'd really appreciate that. Now, here's a really big one: self-canceling turn signals. I am of the opinion that every bike should have self-canceling turn signals. And the reason I think that is there's some things in this life you just should never trust. Motorcycle's blinker is one of them, because a motorcycle rider will turn his blinker on and forget all about it, you know. And somebody will pull out in front of you and you'll cuss them, and guess what? Your blinker was on. And how do I know that? Because I run with my bike on a camera, and I've seen myself do it before. And you know, it's something that I wish they would just do. Let's try to get that. Royal Enfield, listen to me on that one. If you do anything on this list, do that one. You know, that's a good one. Things you could add. We're moving on to another topic here. Things you could add. You know, things that for your own benefit. You know, I have a great big windshield on this. Now, I ride a lot of long miles. You know, I ride a long mile, a lot of, you know, long highway roads. So that big windshield I consider that a necessity. If you are a person that has one of these, my good buddy Justin, he takes us out and he runs us through the woods, and he runs a lot of miles, and he's real hard on his bike, and he runs in a terrain where he doesn't need the big windshield. He's happy, probably, I can't remember what he has for a windshield, but he'd probably be happy with the stock one, you know, the, you know, less minimal. If you ride only in the summer, why would you need a big windshield, you know? If you're a fair weather rider, you know, why would you need a big windshield for rain, you know? So that's another one. Adjustable levers, hand guards. You know, this way I can pick the kind I want. If they did a factory handguard, I do like the Royal Enfield handguards, but you know, this way you can pick your own, I guess. Some people won't need them, some people do, you know. Next one is heated grips and a heated seat. Now, I'm not a heated grip guy. I don't see the value in it. We were talking about heated seats. I would be a heated seat guy. I think if I could find a heated seat for this, I think I would go that way, because that's an area that I think that would be valuable. Okay, keeping on going here. What about last year? So what does that mean? That's what happened last year that I really, you know, what did this bike do for me last year? Now, this is going to be, I don't need to take this. I would say the biggest thing this did was community. I met so many wonderful people because of this motorcycle last year. I had so much fun with so many people. I rode motorcycle with so many people. You know, Harry Terry in Virginia at the Gearhead Junction, you know, Pembroke, Virginia. AJ up in Vermont, you know, Royal Enfield of Bennington. I went down and saw Jason at the motorcycle shop right there. You know, it's just all kinds of good things like that. I want to go to Portland and visit, let's see if I can find his sticker, Sabatino Moto. You know, it's supposed to be one of the most amazing Royal Enfield shops in the country. I'd like to do that. You know, I was able to run down and visit people that I met on YouTube, on Facebook, and we went, you know, I went to their area. Pinky in California, you know, took me all over California, you know, Ken down in Arizona, you know, just Dan in Florida, you know, just this bike, the biggest thing that comes out of me for next year, for last year, is the amount of camaraderie, friendship, enjoyment, community. You know, this has been a bike that has delivered that. And that's really the big surprise, because how does that happen? You know, it's a motorcycle. Well, there's a lot of us out there that we like to ride these kind of rides, and we like to do them with our friends. You know, we like to do them with people we meet, and we like to, you know, I go to an area, I find somebody local there, and they take me on an amazing ride. You know, what they ride daily. You know, if you came here, I could do the same thing for you. And that's another thing. People that I've met here at Baxter Cycle, it's you know, one person after another, and it's just been the biggest thing. You know, that's really been one of the biggest thing. Bike community, met so many people, explored, you know. And then after that, it would be the traveling. The places I've been able to see. Alaska, finally made it to Alaska, you know. Met a lot of Ken in Alaska, met Ken, Alaska Ken, you know. He made the trip, you know, he really did make the trip. Dan on his Africa Twin, all the way up. Mark and Robin from one from state of Washington. I think Mark is from maybe Georgia. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mark. Jeopardy print champion guy. You know, just you know, the places we were able to go and the people we were able to meet, and you know, all 49 states. I can't get to Hawaii yet. I'm trying to figure that one out. Right? Is there a bridge? Maybe a tunnel? I don't know. You know, those kind of things are just. Canada, and you know, I love Canada now. I'd never been to Canada. I went there, I think, a year ago, and this year I've gone a couple times already. I've been there so much that they asked me why I keep, you know, they asked me at the border, you know, how come you made so many trips? Well, because I love Canada. You know? So anyway, that's that. Okay, future of the bike. Okay, this is when I keep getting asked. I've had the bike 100,000 kilometers. What now? Well, I bought the bike to keep a year. I was going to trade this off in 1 year. 1 year was last August, and in 1 year I thought, I can't get rid of this bike. It works fine. Why would I pay money to get a different bike when I've got this bike, you know? And I've kept it. So now we're at 62,000 miles, which is 100,000 kilometers. What now? What's the future hold for this bike? I'm going to keep running it, and the reason is it's still running solid. The motor feels like I ride new ones all the time, and I feel I have as much going on in here as any new one does. You know, the suspension still works right. Things aren't falling apart yet. You know, everything is tight. Everything works well. Everything, you know, nothing is junking out on me. Everything is, you know, nothing is, the buttons all work right. Everything is just together and doing its job well. I have no reason to change the bike. So we are going to, you know, we're going to try to get to 70,000. We'll try to get to 80,000. We'll try to get to 90,000. We'll try to get to 100,000. Will the bike make it? It's got a 452cc engine, single cylinder. I run down the interstate between 6,100 and 6,500 RPM all day long, day after day after day. It can't possibly keep going, right? Well, someday it'll, you know, something will happen. And, you know, there's two main ways the bike wears out. One is gradually, and it gets to where it can't hold speed anymore because it doesn't have compression, or, you know, things just don't work quite as right. They're loose and junk out on you. The other is catastrophic, which means you lose a timing chain, or your oil pump goes out, or something big happens. And when that happens, you know, that's the catastrophic route. We're going to find out where that goes, and then at 100,000, if I can get to 100,000, my math says if just the normal way I ride, I should be there by May. The end of May. If I'm not, you know, then we're going to go to Alaska in June. Go with us. We want you to go with us. All are part of the trip. I'll take it to Alaska. I really will, as long as I feel like it's still a good bike for that. And I at this point, I think it really is. I would ride this to Alaska tomorrow if the weather would let me. You know, it's just been a fabulous machine. So that's where the bike's going. That's where we're going. What about the new Himalayan, you know? Well, we don't have a new Himalayan. I personally don't think it's going to come for several years, and I don't know what it would do that this one doesn't do. This one's going to be lighter. This is going to have a lower center of gravity. This one has plenty of power. This one, this one trues America very well. Everywhere in America I've wanted to go, it's been able to take me. You know, I just posted a video today where we did the Moab. Watching that, of course, I did that on the Bear, didn't I? I'd like to do that on this bike. You know, this is the more capable. I think Colorado Mark was on his, and he had the more capable bike. And you know, I'd like to do that on. I'd like to do more of those kind of rides. You know, I am a geek that goes online and I find these abandoned roads in California, you know, and other parts of the country where nobody's been on. I'd like to go ride some of those roads, and this is the kind of bike that would do that. You know, I think I can. That's kind of my goal. So we'll try to do more of that. You know, it's been a fabulous machine. I can't say enough good about it, and I am rambling like a fool now. If y'all are interested in a hot rod motorcycle like this one, well, I'll tore it apart right now. The Himalayan, Super Meter, Royal Enfield of any type, new or used, Triumph, classic British bike of any type. I just looked at an amazing 1958 Ariel Square 4 in the other room, just gorgeous. Wow. Yeah, if you're interested in anything like that, parts, accessories, thingamajigs, doodads, helmets, gloves, jackets, accessories of all types, get yourself over to Baxter Cycle in the mighty Minneapolis. They're working on a brand new warehouse. They want to have the largest Royal Enfield part supply in the nation, and they're working on that right now. And you know, or go to BaxterCycle.com, tell them Fuzzy Biker from the shop sent you, and you know, get a hold of those guys. They can help you out. Service work, they have an amazing service department. Now, speaking of rambling, right? Life is good, my friends. Get off the couch. Get out of that easy chair. I dread the easy chair. Get out there and live life. Life is good. Wahoo. That's the guy. That's the guy that owns it.
Oh, that's the
dude.
You gotta make sure 50 degrees inside down.
Wahoo! Vermont. Wahoo!
Wahoo!
Wahoo, Alaska!